to the reality bonus for
Episode
Sarah.
7. It's 7, yes.
It's 7,
Uh-huh.
which is interesting because Sarah is number 2 in our lineup, and this episode really features her
How does number 2 and number 7?
because it's
Why is that
episode
interesting?
7.
Why is that interesting though?
Because it would have been really fortuitous if we would have had
If she was number 7?
if if the episode was number 2 and she's the second born.
So the fact that this is number 7 and that she's the second born has no relevance whatsoever.
In a lot of ways, we wanted to tell the story of Sarah because it's such a relatable story and it's such an important topic and it's very life changing, especially for our family. And I thought she did a great job and was very brave in sharing it.
Oh gosh, it was tear jerking for us to watch how Travis edited that episode, put it together, the things that we'd shared, Sarah's part, and I think we cried. I cry every time I watch it and rewatch that episode. It's just a powerful episode. And ultimately, I think when it's all said and done, as hard as that time was for us to accept the fact that we were going to have this very public thing for our family that was going to go not just 9 months but beyond, and the questions that people would ask, the judgment that people would pass, as hard as all of that was, I look back and I think what a beautiful thing this is. Not only is Audrey a jewel, she's a gem in our eyes, she's just a delight. But Sarah has done so much with this. She has overcome so much. She's kind of just put her nose to the ground and just, I don't know, charged forward in her life. And it's been a great thing. And we are ultimately just so proud of her. So I think, I know that this topic can be controversial, but in the end, we're proud of our daughter. We're proud of what she's done with her life. We're proud of the choices that she's made. And nobody's perfect, and our family is certainly not perfect, but it's a happy ending.
What was interesting is that over the years, occasionally I would tell a little bit from my perspective the story of Sarah and Audrey. And so many times people would come up and they would say, I was Audrey, or I was Sarah. Numerous times I would have this happen. And I began to realize that while it was extremely intense in our life at that time, and we didn't know a lot of people who were going through that in our immediate circle there, boy, it is very common, and people can relate. I actually have often thought, we could have easily been parents ourselves even before we were married. And the truth is, I think that's a lot of people's story. And so I think the fact that Sarah not only talked about it, but talked about it from the perspective of, what do I do? I'm young. People are going to judge me. I don't want my parents to know. She's trying to live a faith-filled life and realizing that there are things now that are going to be very obvious soon.
Yeah.
I love, though, being a grandparent. And I think that what's interesting is that in my mind, I never imagined that I would be a grandparent at the age I became a grandparent. But yet, what a beautiful gift that we've been given with Audrey. For 5 years, pretty much, they lived right here with us, at the Happy Place Homestead. And we had a little cabin, the mustard seed cabin, which many of you have seen. I think there's videos even of Linda when she was working on it and getting it ready. Basically, we needed to find a place for Sarah that was kind of her own world. When we moved here, we wanted Sarah to have a sense of independence. She was going to be going and regularly working on her nursing degree. And we just somehow knew that for her as a young woman, really, she needed to learn the responsibility and the impact and the reality of being a mom, but also how to balance that with a real life of trying to get a degree, to get a job, and to provide. But as parents, we didn't disconnect ourselves from her and her journey. And I think there's a lot of people there. It was funny how some of the comments that we'd get would be like, she should just do this all on her own. Like, why are you helping her?
Right,
which is so weird.
You're catering to her. She's made this mistake, and by giving her so much, you're catering to her. And we just think that is such a horrible perspective.
Right.
I think the person who made that comment wasn't a parent, because as parents, a good parent anyway, wants to help out your children. You should support and help your kids. All of our kids, make different choices. All of them have had hurdles and struggles in different ways. But why is an unplanned pregnancy different
Yeah.
than the struggle of another child who struggles with other maybe addictions, or who struggles with their grades, or who struggles with depression, who struggles with anger? Like all of
Right.
our kids, even financial struggles as kids get older. That why is all of a sudden an unplanned pregnancy is so different? People treat that so different. In fact, I think in this world we see people, their perspective is that pregnancy is the worst thing that can happen to a girl.
Yeah.
And how tragic it is that because ultimately, soapbox here, ultimately, our fertility as women, giving birth and having children, is a beautiful, beautiful gift of our sex, of our femininity. It is our defining thing about our femininity. Not that women have to have children in order to be fully a woman, but it is so much of a crowning a glory in our femininity, and yet we see it as the worst thing that can happen. And that was for me with Sarah. Very soon on, I realized that Sarah was on this wayward path, and there was lots of ways in which she could be uh, shaken and woken up. You know, of things in those kind of situations. Often girls are they have very violent situations. Rape. Abuse, things that they can get involved in those kind of relationships early on, especially in college. We see it, it's a rampant problem on college campuses these days. Or she could have had a permanent STD, or she could have had emotional trauma. There's so many things that could have affected her that would have ruined her for a lot longer, a lot more difficultly, in a lot more intense way. Pregnancy, to me, is one of the most gentle ways that I saw that the Lord dealt with Sarah in her waywardness, because it was a thing that she was made to do in the first place, to have babies. And we have Audrey as the end. I mean, Audrey is not a punishment. Audrey is not a bad
Right.
thing. She is a gift. And so to treat an unplanned pregnancy, or pregnancy in general, having children in general, whether you're married or not, as something that's a bad thing, something to be afraid of, makes me very sad. Very sad, because as a woman, I find that as a very empowering thing for me as a woman. Yeah, it's hard, it's difficult. You get fat, you get stretch marks, you get tired. There's so many things
I
that
have
go
those
along with
too.
it. Yes, yes. But it's such a empowering, beautiful thing. And so, even though this was not the path that we planned for Sarah, this was not the way that we wanted her to maybe step into motherhood, it still was a beautiful thing that happened for her.
Well, what's interesting is that I don't think necessarily our response to it was maybe perfect, but I think it was pretty special. The response that we gave to Sarah, those who watched the episode, was, "I'm so thankful for the baby. Your timing is horrible, but I'm so excited about the baby."
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting to me is the amount of kids who have come up and said, I have been cut off. My parents
Mm-hmm.
didn't do what you guys did.
Right.
Like, I wish my parents would have
Mm-hmm.
done that. So while we did have somebody says, like, oh, she needs to go off and figure it out on her own, the vast majority of people responded with,
Right.
wow, that's a pretty special thing. And I knew in a
Right.
lot of ways from our perspective as parents, because obviously we weren't the young kids having a child out of wedlock. But from a parent perspective, I think my initial first response when I heard that Sarah was pregnant was, "Oh my gosh, my baby's having a baby." And in my mind, she's still that young girl, and she still has so much to learn, and that's why the issue of timing. So I don't think a lot of people can understand when we say it was such a gentle gift that she received to help kind of get her on this path be the woman that she is today, because they do see it as this disrupt in what is their plan, and it
Mm-hmm.
is so inconvenient and so terrifying, and we recognize that.
Yeah,
But
we
I
felt
think,
that inconvenience for
right, so
sure.
we're not
Mm-hmm.
minimizing that at all, but I think looking at the grand scheme of
Right.
it
Looking
from
back at it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and from the perspective that we had intentionally desired to be involved and to help her, we knew that this could be it. Because, see, the thing about it is having kids, I like to say, having kids shows us that we still have selfishness that we need to deal with in our life. And having a child, especially at her age, was just this wake up call that I can't do things the same way as I've been doing them. I have to live life different, which she articulated so well. And I think also that desire, and I loved her phrase that she knew that no matter what happened, whether it was the route that many of her friends and people she knew would take with abortion or to adoption or keeping the baby, was that forever and ever she would be a mother. And I thought that was such an insight and so powerful. And I love that she decided that she was going to move forward with that, regardless of the criticisms
Right.
and disapproval and negative, kind of glances and such. But
Well, she is a force of nature. Our Sarah is a force of nature. She is scary. She can be very scary.
ultimately, I don't know where you're at, but our family decided that we wanted to share this part of our journey with you because it's real life. And I think ultimately, when you talk about reality shows, I hate the contrived, fake drama. The
Mm-hmm.
reality is not there. And what we wanted to do with our show was to invite people into our world and to see this is our real life. And the story of Sarah has been such a big part of our real life that we decided to be very vulnerable. So I'm sure that there's going to be some idiots that are going to make stupid comments on the YouTube page, but it comes with the territory of being vulnerable. I like to say that if you're willing to be open and vulnerable about your journey, it does two things. One is it opens up the opportunity for you to be judged,
Mm-hmm.
but those kind of people judge you anyways, and you may not know about it, but they're doing it. They're just always looking for a reason to criticize and to put you down. But the second thing being vulnerable does, which is the greater, is that it frees other people up to be vulnerable as well, to share their story. And so this is our story. Maybe for you, maybe you're a grandparent or a parent, and you've never told your journey. You've never told your story to somebody, and I remember an older lady came up to me at a conference and she shared a bit of her journey, which was very similar to Sarah's, and she'd never talked about it. And I think there's a lot of people that have some very profound, wise words
Mm-hmm.
of their experiences, and maybe just need that little nudge and encouragement to go and be fierce and to be amazing and to be bold and to be brave and to confront, maybe those hurts. Maybe you've been hurt by the things that your parents said to you, that they weren't accepting, that they weren't inviting you to be a young mom. Maybe you've wondered where your child has been all these years. Maybe you did have the abortion and you're hurting. And we just want you to know that we love you. We're here for you. You can email us. You can send us messages on YouTube, and whatever we can do to be with you on your journey would be a gift. And while maybe your timing was horrible, we are thankful for you and what we believe God has been doing in your life. You're not alone. Is ultimately what we're saying.
That's right.
So. Until next time.
Until next time. Thanks for watching.